All right, now we are glad to bring on the 6'1" Scorpio man who loves brunettes, aka his wife, DC comic blogger, now with the hockey buzz writing for the Florida Panthers, the Chicago Blackhawks, Nicholas Jarmelson. We have Ross for the Windy City Benders. Welcome aboard, Matt. Glad to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. What an intro. It's pretty good, man. I wasn't expecting that. It's pretty funny.
Hey, I mean, you did all that. We just put it out there for everyone to hear.
Yeah, didn't know if it was actually be used. That's good, Ross.
So how you doing today, man?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing good. So so you've been writing for Hockey Buzz for the Panthers. How long have you been doing that?
You know what? I've been on Hockey Buzz, kind of, man, I don't know, for quite a bit, just kind of as a lurker, just kind of reading blogs, posting on there in the comment sections for a number of years now. And then more so recently, I started kind of talking with the guys there and kind of weaseled my way into submitting some fan blogs for the Panthers. They didn't have anyone writing anything, so I thought, maybe I'll just throw some stuff out there. And one thing led to another, and they just said, hey, why don't you just come aboard as a freelancer? So officially, I don't know, it's been probably the second half of the season till now. So just kind of keeping that ball rolling.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, it looks like you've been doing it for years with how many articles you've been writing. Jesus, we pull up the page and it was like every day you got a new one coming out.
Yeah, trying to keep it cranking, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So was always a Panthers fan, or did you kind of just see that they were the missing factor right there? They didn't have anybody writing for them.
Oh, a combination. So, I mean, obviously, Hawks guy growing up in the Chicago area, so
All the Hawks going down there kind of help.
But when they came on the scene, I don't know, man. I was probably when they got really well. They were good when they started, obviously. And I was growing up, and I was a Van Beesbrook fan. So I don't know. I always kind of liked them from there. I liked Mellenby and Drovanovsky and stuff like that, and just kind of always kept my eye on them. And then later on, kind of helped that they were frequent dance partners with the Hawks, so it just kept my interest. And then I noticed there was a need for a writer for him, so I don't know. It just kind of worked out, I guess.
Yeah.
So looking back at this season, obviously the Panthers weren't in the playoffs at all. I mean, was there anything that stood out to you? What was your overall impression on the season last year?
Definitely a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team. One night you'd get a really good, solid performance. Maybe they string together a few games that were really good. They had a number of 3 to 4 game winning streaks, and then would just crumble.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of didn't know what you were getting each night. And I think a big factor, a thing that most fans can agree is the defense was just pretty atrocious at times. So, it didn't help either that you had some key goalie injuries with Luongo. And
yeah, going back and forth between goalies a lot.
Yeah, so it was kind of a combination of those two things on the back end. But, I mean, it's crazy how much they paralleled the Hawks in a way where you had guys having career years and then just sort of disappointing not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how did you feel about Barkov? Obviously, he tore it up, almost hit 100 points into the 90s. I mean,
oh, yeah, guy's unbelievable. He plays both ways, too, which is really cool. He's not just an offensive-minded guy. He gets back and helps out, breaks up plays. And, Hoffman that went off, too.
Yeah, what a pickup from his amazing time in San Jose. What a move to get him.
I know, yeah. Boy, it was tough. Probably tough getting him out of San Jose, but what a savvy move by Talon.
Yeah. No, he did light it up this year. I was kind of not expecting him to do that as well as he did down there, but yeah, he had a great year.
Yeah, he did. He really played well.
So they go to the offseason, immediately fire their coach. Was that something that you kind of heard was going to happen, or did that kind of just come out of nowhere?
I think a lot of fans and myself were kind of thinking maybe this is going to happen because there were so many rumors about Q, but I honestly did not think that they could get him. I thought it was more so just wishful thinking from a lot of people. I thought Bugner would get fired, but I didn't know who they would get to replace him, and was very surprised when they got Q. And I think, it's nothing against Bugner or anything like that, but obviously you get that winning pedigree with Q, so that's why there's so much excitement. And then you get a guy who's going to, hold guys accountable, and he's going to be able to mold these young guys. Because, man, watching last year, there was a lot of times where guys would cough the puck up, turn the puck over, they'd make the same mistakes over and over again, and yet no one was really, they weren't missing shifts, they weren't getting benched, they weren't in the press box, and not that like you have to do that stuff, but I think it's kind of nice to see it, and I think it sends a message to players. And I think Q, kind of a no BS guy, I think he's gonna be able to come in and kind of take the reins and mold these young talented dudes. I think that's what they're really missing. So we'll see.
And I think you really set the tone too with that press conference, having the whole team there, and just pretty much ending it with like, yeah, don't get used to this. We should be getting ready for the playoffs right now. This is the last time this is gonna happen.
I totally agree. He's already the gears are already turning, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it a few times that this team reminds him a lot of the Hawks when he came to the Hawks. So it's gonna be pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I don't watch too many Panthers games, but like listen to what you're saying about they every time I watch them, they have so much talent. There's so many young, good players there, but like you said, they just kind of do what they want. Like they should be a lot better than they are every single year. Everybody thinks that they're going to make the playoffs this year. It's finally their year, and it just never pans out. But knowing what Q did with the Hawks, what kind of guy he is, obviously. I mean, do you think he can – obviously he's ready, like we said, putting his full Q mode in so far. But, like, what kind of impression do you think he's going to have right away with these guys?
I think it's going to be a big one. I know I was watching some player interviews just from that press conference, and a lot of those guys were obviously, sort of in awe and admiration of him just being there.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of already. I mean, he has that sort of like ilk and presence, and so I really think those guys are going to feed off of him. At least I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously it's very exciting, but we got to get next season going to see how it all pans out.
So the big rumor going around was around the trade deadline too, was that the Dale Talon was gearing up to make a run at Bob and even possibly Panarin. Do you think bringing Q in now, especially at least for Panarin, do you think that might have a little influence and increase Florida's chances of landing this type of free agent?
I definitely do. I actually think what I was really impressed with Talon was obviously letting Bugner go and then bringing Q in immediately. I thought sort of set the tone of like,
we're here to win.
We're actually serious about being a very competitive team next year, rather than like firing a coach and then months and months go by where it's like, well, we're talking to this guy and this we're waiting to see what happens. It was like immediately set the tone that, hey, we know where we need to be and how to get there, and like it starts with Q. And I think that's going to send a message kind of to the league. I think there's going to be a lot of guys interested in Florida now. And I think, to your point, obviously that rumor's been floating around a lot about Bob and Panarin. I definitely think there's a possibility they get him. I think Panarin's more the luxury of the off season. If they can get him, that'd be awesome. But definitely shoring up, the blue paint with Bob would be huge. And they got to do something. They got to make a move on defense. I don't know, what it is, but if they can bring a more defensive-minded guy, proven guy in, I think that would be huge. But then obviously, if they can get the package deal of Bob and Panarin, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely another step in the right direction. Yeah, we were just going to bring up the next bullet we had was what are the areas do they need improvement? So obviously you think the defense needs a bunch of improving there.
Yeah, man, they turn the puck over so much, unfortunately, and we're kind of in that. I feel like we're in that era now of the NHL where the game is changing a bunch, where you're seeing more kind of smallish defensemen come in who are more puck moving guys and kind of think more offensively. And I think we're kind of missing that. We're missing that defensive minded guy, the shutdown guy. And so, I don't know, when I look at the Panthers defense, I like Josh Brown a lot. I like Mark Pysyk a lot. They're both kind of more defensive minded guys. And you got a guy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mike Matheson. Do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's skating ability is incredible. He's sort of the new age formula, but he struggles with turnovers and things like that. So I'll be curious to see if, what Q and Talon do in order to fix that defense up. But there's a couple of guys I could see Q keeping around. I think he's going to like Uyghur, like Brown, like I said. I'm kind of curious about that Brady Keeper guy that the Inuit guy that they brought in.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a cool story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. You got Yandel. I'm just okay on Yandel. I'm not a huge Yandel guy.
He was one of the guys that seemed really stoked to have Q come in, though.
Oh, was he? Okay, I didn't see his reaction. Was he pumped?
Yeah, I saw a couple things on Twitter where he was real impressed by what Q said right away, and he's stoked. It looks like he's ready to be part of a winning team
finally,
again.
Finally get shot,
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we talk about it on the podcast saying that, plus minus is such a irrelevant stat. Like we're not big plus minus guys, but I'm looking at the stats for the Florida Panthers for this past year. 4 guys on the entire roster were the only ones that were a plus. Two of them only played 1 game, and one was that keeper guy. Yeah, so it's like definitely. I mean, it's such like a weird stat, but at the same time, I mean,
it still can show something.
Yeah, that shows a lot. That there's technically only 1 guy that was a plus, and that was Ekblad.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
insane.
It's kind of shocking when you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
And I like Ekblad. I think there's still a ton of obviously potential with that guy. I just want to see what Q's going to do when he comes in.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely. Q loves shuffling the lines up, and he loves keeping everybody on their toes. So yeah, and he is not afraid to hold people accountable. He doesn't care who it is. So yeah, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see what he does and how this team performs under him.
Yeah, and it's not like when you bench a guy for a couple shifts, it's not, Q being a jerk. It's just like you got to send a message. And I don't think a lot of these guys have gotten a message over the past couple of years from different coaches because no one's really cracked the whip. And I think Q is the guy to do it. So he should be able to whip these guys into shape. It's going to be cool.
So I'm also looking at the roster real quick, like age-wise. I mean, they're a pretty young team. And they got a lot of young guys that are going to be like borderline coming up, like Owen Tippett and all that. Is there any concern about how Q doesn't really trust the rookies at all that much? I mean, like how he was in Chicago, it was a struggle with him and Bowman about playing the young guys.
Very short leash for those guys.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to be a huge concern coming down with a team that's going to be majority young guys?
So it's funny you bring that up because I was thinking the same thing. Like the two of the big knocks on Q have always been, well, he doesn't like to play young guys. And then the second one being that he, Q's blender, he likes to mix the lines up, likes to mix pairings up and this and that. And I was wondering, kind of the same thing you guys are, how the Panthers fans will react to that. I think Q is going to be okay with these young guys. He seems to be very enthused about them. So, which makes me believe that he's okay with playing them and seeing what they have and what he's got to work with. I don't think there's going to be, I feel like some of that stuff with Q towards the end kind of happened towards the end of his time in Chicago, and maybe it was just getting to I don't know, maybe it was getting to the time where things were, breaking up a little bit and kind of deteriorating between him and the front office, and maybe he just kind of dug his feet in and that was it. He seems very open to the idea of having all these young guys in this young roster. So I'm expecting him to work well with them. So we'll see.
I guess kind of looking at it, they're in 2 different spots too. Like with the Hawks, there were so many veterans that he could lean on, and he could sit those younger guys where in Florida, it's mostly younger guys, so you can't really sit them to lean on any of the veteran guys. It's more so you got to play with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, your veteran guys on Florida are really like Yandel, Luongo. Ekblad's kind of a,
Yeah, I was going to say Ekblad's kind of there.
And he's 23.
Yeah, right.
Barkov is 23, and he's like the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hoffman, Barkov, those guys. But yeah, you don't have like those. I mean, Hawks had like really deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jarmelson,
of veterans.
Yeah, Jarmelson, Seabrook, Keith. Those three guys got leaned on. You got Taze, Kane, Hossa, Assad up front. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Okay. So we really appreciate you coming on, and we don't want to take too much of your time. We do have one more question that we like asking all the guests on the show. So you're a big hockey guy. You played, and obviously you love watching. So what is your all-time favorite hockey memory, either from your playing days or from just being a fan?
Oh man, tough question. I'll be totally honest with you. Men's league is probably my favorite thing about hockey that like ever. Yeah, I enjoyed playing growing up and peewees and bantams in high school and all that. But man, there's something way cooler about men's league. It's just, I don't know, going out late, skating, having a beer maybe afterwards. I don't know. It's fun.
So just all of men's league is your favorite.
So.
Yeah. So all of men's league is just your favorite. Just the whole concept.
The whole experience. It's just loose. It's fun. Yeah.
Love it. True guy right there.
Yeah.
All right, Rossy. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. This was an absolute pleasure, and we definitely got to have you on again soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rossy.
Thanks, man.
Okay, later.